On the morning of Friday, October 9, 1998, a man named Abdullah Kurt was passing through passport control at Damascus airport. Abdullah was traveling with a forged passport on a flight from Damascus to Stockholm, with a layover in Athens. However, he was no ordinary traveler. His true identity was Abdullah Öcalan, leader of the Kurdistan Workers' Party, the PKK. Öcalan was forced to leave Syria after the Turkish government led by President Süleyman Demirel and Prime Minister Mesut Yilmaz threatened Syria with military intervention as Syria's President Hafez al-Assad had allowed the PKK to establish camps on its territory and permitted its leader to reside in the country. 3 weeks earlier, on September 15, 1998, Turkish Land Forces Commander General Atilla Ateş visited Reyhanli, in the Hatay province, and standing near the Syrian border declared, "We have no more patience with Syria. If Turkey does not receive the response it expects, it will have the right to take all necessary measures." 2 days later, on September 17, the leaders of the two main political parties in Iraqi Kurdistan, Barzani of the Kurdish Democratic Party and Tolabani of the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan, signed the Washington Peace Agreement following mediation efforts led by the United States Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright, bringing the two parties together on crucial issues of power sharing and revenue distribution. The agreement echoed badly in Turkey as it meant that they would face a US-supported unified Kurdish front in Iraq, in addition to Syria's continued tolerance of PKK's operations within its territory. Under these developments, Turkey demanded that Öcalan be expelled and threatened Syria with war if its demands were not met. Back in Syria, Öcalan's decision to land in Athens was deliberate, as he had established connections with various circles in Greece, including local government, the arts community, and political parties, particularly the then-ruling Pan-Hellenic Socialist movement. A key figure in these ties was Member of Parliament Kostas Barduvas, whom Öcalan invited to Damascus. Barduvas accepted the invitation and traveled to the Syrian capital on October 7. During their meeting, Öcalan explained his situation and requested that the Greek government allow him to stay in Greece temporarily until his associates in Europe arranged for him to receive political asylum in a European country. Barduvas returned to Athens, and the following day he confirmed to Öcalan's aides that the Greek government had approved Öcalan's request. On the morning of October 9, and while Öcalan was still en route to Greece, Barduvas informed the Greek Minister of Public Order that a high-ranking official was arriving in Athens for medical treatment. Understanding that this referred to Öcalan, the minister alerted the director of the National Intelligence Service, Haralambos Stavrakakis. Accompanied by experienced intelligence officer Savvas Kalederidis, Stavrakakis went to Hellinikon International Airport in Athens to meet Öcalan. Accompanied by 2 men and a woman, Öcalan arrived at the airport, where he remained for approximately 7 hours. During this time, Öcalan and the Greek intelligence officers negotiated the conditions of his stay in Greece, while his aides communicated with PKK members in Russia who had connections within the Russian government. Just as all preparations were finalized, the Greek officers received a fax containing an official invitation for Öcalan, signed by Alexei Mitrofanov, chairman of the Committee on Geopolitics of the State Duma of the Russian Federation. Öcalan accepted the invitation and, at his request, he traveled with Kalederidis to Moscow, on a private plane arranged by the Greek Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The plane landed at Sheremetyevo International Airport, where Öcalan was received with a semi-official ceremony. Kalederidis returned to Greece on the same plane. Öcalan was sheltered in the house of Vladimir Zhirinovsky, leader of the Liberal Democratic Party, and soon after he requested political asylum in Russia. In the 3rd week after his arrival, Öcalan participated in a live Kurdish television program via a phone call. Following his participation, Russian security personnel informed him that intelligence agencies from Israel, Turkey, and the United States had precisely tracked his location using the phone's satellite signal. On November 4, the Duma unanimously supported the appeal to the president to grant asylum to Öcalan, with 298 deputies in favor and only 1 opposed. However, Prime Minister Yevgeny Primakov, who had recently taken office in September, did not act on the motion. Instead, Öcalan was given 9 days to leave Russia. After staying 33 days in Russia, Öcalan left for Italy on November 12. Once in Rome, Öcalan surrendered to the Italian police and applied for political asylum. He was held under house arrest in Infernetto, a suburban zone of Rome. The newly installed government of Massimo D'Alema faced a legal dilemma. While Italy opposed the death penalty and could not extradite Öcalan to Turkey, granting him asylum was highly contentious. Meanwhile, Turkey insisted on his extradition and threatened economic repercussions, while NATO allies sought to maintain good relations with Ankara. To avoid escalating tensions, the Italian government subtly pressured Öcalan to leave, with D'Alema declaring on December 23 that the best solution would be for Öcalan to leave Italy voluntarily. Earlier, the minister of the Greek presidency under the Simites government, Alekos Papadopoulos, warned Öcalan through Pantheon University professor Christoforos Yalleridis not to leave Italy under any circumstances. Based on CIA information, he believed that any plane departing from Rome would ultimately end up in Ankara. D'Alema made an agreement with Russian Prime Minister Yevgeny Primakov to transport Öcalan by private plane to a Russian military base and then on to South Africa. South African President, Thabo Mbeki, had also been consulted and was willing to receive him. Removing Öcalan from the villa where he was staying in Rome required careful planning. A lookalike was placed in his residence, and on January 16, 1999, Öcalan disguised himself as a police officer and left during a scheduled guard change, managing to slip away unnoticed. After arriving in Moscow, Öcalan was secretly transferred to a military base in Dushanbe, Tajikistan, where he was sheltered while U.S. Secretary of State Madeleine Albright was in Moscow. His case was among the topics discussed during her two-day visit from January 23 to 25. After Albright's departure, Öcalan was transferred to St. Petersburg in Russia and was warned to remain on his plane due to alleged threats of kidnapping or assassination by hired criminals. Öcalan remained on his plane without heating or any means of communication until Antonis Naxakis, a retired Greek naval officer, arranged a private Learjet and flew him back to Athens for the second time on January 29. While Öcalan was being transported, Russia ordered the plane to land in Bucharest, as Romania had reportedly agreed to hand him over to the Turkish authorities. The plane refused and landed in Athens. The director of the National Intelligence Service, Stavrakakis, met with him and informed him that he could not remain in Greece. Öcalan, his companions and Greek intelligence officers started working on other alternatives. Öcalan was offered the option to go to Libya, which he found favorable. However, when he requested to go to Beirut, Lebanon, officials explained that Greece could not ensure his safe passage there. Another plan involved dispatching several yachts in different directions, with one carrying Öcalan. By taking the vessel outside the 12-mile limit, he would be beyond Greece's jurisdiction. Using a foreign-flagged ship, he could have stayed at sea for up to a month, effectively evading any intervention. Eventually, the Kurdish movement arranged for Öcalan to be sent to the Netherlands. He requested that an official from Greece accompany him, and Kalederidis was chosen due to his knowledge of Turkish and his previous experience traveling with Öcalan. The plan was for them to fly to Minsk in Belarus, where Öcalan would board a cargo plane from Riga, Latvia, bound for Rotterdam. On January 30, Öcalan landed at Minsk airport. On the plane were Öcalan, the Greek agent Kalederidis, Denise Melser and a Dutch lawyer named Rota Minsk. However, the cargo plane they were expecting had not been given permission to land, and Dutch authorities had issued an airspace closure order. After waiting in Minsk in sub-zero temperatures, Öcalan returned to Athens, landing 3:30 in the morning of February 1. 2 hours later, he boarded a flight to the Greek island of Corfu, in the Ionian Sea. Upon Öcalan's arrival in Corfu, news of his presence on the island quickly spread. Kalederidis proposed that Öcalan would take a speedboat to a remote Italian shore, where he would stay in a trailer caravan, allowing for mobility as needed. However, the plan was leaked shortly after being discussed, prompting the Italian Coast Guard to issue notices, a clear indication that communications within the Greek intelligence agency had been compromised. As Greek authorities became aware that key actors were closely monitoring their operations, Greek officials proposed that Öcalan travel to an African country. Initially hesitant, Öcalan was persuaded by Kalederidis who, as instructed by Stavrakakis, assured him that the Greek state guaranteed his safety. With this reassurance, Öcalan agreed to board the flight. Meanwhile, authorities ordered a blackout at the airport to conceal the operation. However, during the process, the car transporting Öcalan accidentally crashed into the wing of the jet he was meant to board, causing minor injuries to some of the vehicle's passengers. After the accident, Öcalan boarded a Greek Coast Guard boat to Igoumenitsa, then traveled by car to the Araxos air base in northwestern Peloponnese. From there, Öcalan, his bodyguard Ibrahim Ayaz, interpreter Denise Melsa, Greek businessman Aristos Aristidou, and Greek agent Kalederidis departed for Kenya at 5:30 in the morning of February 2. For security reasons, Kalederidis was unaware that the plane was heading to Nairobi. His orders were to escort Öcalan to an African country and then return to Greece on the same aircraft. He found out about the destination after the plane had left Araxos.